recipe of success without that kind of cooperation, and we're equally good to everybody that does it. But anyway, when we get done, we find out that we have, in this case, the work of over 300 artists photographed. Now we've got to boil this down to about 190. We've already had a hard task at these shows of eliminating some that I didn't even bother to photograph, even though it was good. So that's the heartbreaking part of this, is trying to determine who is going to be in the book. And there is no secret to it. It's a hard job. We get the publisher in with their staff, and we start looking at the art, and Lois at this point now is starting. She hasn't even started the text yet, because she can't do it until we figure out which artists are going to be in the book and how it's going to be organized. And so it's just a heartbreaking task of saying, this one fits better for this reason, this art is different, it has to be in us. And so we make errors. There are a lot of artists in this book that we wish would have been, but that's the way it is, and that's the only way we can do it.
When I finally did get started, he was beginning to think I never would.
I was getting worried.
He really was. He thought he was hiding it, but I knew he was. But I couldn't just go sit down and do it. There was something about it that I had to think this through before I even sat down at the computer and started to work. And finally, I came up with this idea of the 4 different sections being the time of mourning, because the 4 sections are so important to the Navajo to begin with.
Times of day.
The times of day, sorry. And I also wanted a text that would be warm and personal. I wanted you can see the art by looking at the book. I wanted you to be able to see the artist by reading it. And this was a place that I found where our backgrounds really came in handy. We already knew a lot of the fellows and had a lot of Navajo friends for years. But even in talking to some that we didn't really know before, there was an empathy there when they found out that we were raised very much the way that most of them were, with no electricity, out on ranches, with hauling water or whatever. You know, it's just a feeling there that of camaraderie. That
we wouldn't look down our nose at them because we lived in the city, because we could share these things. In fact, our mothers still cook on wood stoves, just like many of their mothers do. It was fun when we'd share these little stories and they'd open up.
We also wanted to speak, we didn't want to speak for the Navajo. We wanted to let things speak through us. And hopefully we have done that. We've had a lot of compliments already from them. And I said, I'm pleased when you like the book. We're thrilled when the Navajo people themselves like it. And Herbert Taylor, one of the Navajo artists in the book, made the remark, after you've read it, you feel like you know the artist. And that's what I wanted to do. So I'm real happy about that.
Yeah. And speaking of knowing the artist now, we want to introduce Peter Ray James. Peter is a special young man. We've seen him grow rapidly just in the last few years. I mean, his masks are beautiful. They were beautiful 3 years ago, but now they're just stunning. And his paintings and everything he does. This is one example of the new breed of Native American artists that we have today. They're keeping their culture alive through the art. And where sometimes the culture doesn't get out to the average person, it will come out through artists such as Peter Ray James, who is doing this kind of work.
He's used to being interrupted, so let me do it again. Peter also does something that we think is very, very important, and we failed to mention it so far. He goes around through the New Mexico State Arts Division to reservation schools, talking to children, helping them with their art, showing them what they can be. And I think this encourages them so much. And he's been too modest to mention it, and we failed to.
He's a motivator of these young people.
It's fantastic.
That's important. That really is.
And some of the other fellows are doing this too, and I think it's the greatest thing in the world to give these people some self-esteem that they very sadly need in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So thank you, Peter.
Anyway, the thing that's exciting about Peter's art, in our opinion, is that, as Peter's going to share with you, he's very Navajo. There's no question about that. He is Navajo through and through. And he brings his culture in a very contemporary way to his art. I mean, this isn't the typical thing that most people think of as Indian art. And it's the kind of art that you can hang in any home, whether you're Southwest decor or very contemporary. And in all of this beautiful art, he blends the traditions of his culture with his talent and ability to create beautiful, beautiful contemporary art. Peter, come talk to these folks.
Hello, it's good to be here today. I just want to ask anybody if they know the Dallas and Philadelphia score.
We barely got him here this afternoon.
12-6. 12-6?
You figure it out.
I'll be back in. I'll be back after the game. It's good to be here today here in St. Charles, and I'd like to say I'm very thankful for Steve and Jen, gallery owners, to invite me out here. We talked about doing this show back in, I think it was early March, and I was a little bit hesitant about it at the time because I didn't know them personally real well, and we had a chance in the last few days to hang around and talk and get to know each other and become like family. And it's been real comforting to know that Jerry and Lois were also going to be here for the book signing, and to be part of this show. I want to thank them personally, to let them know that they are probably God sent to the Navajo people. Their work and their inspiration, their photography and literature has emulated a lot of things about our tradition, a lot of things about our culture. Individual people I know that I come across, artists and non-artists, really admire their work, photography and the realism that they do, and I just wanted to thank you personally for being part of the success of the Navajo artists. My name was given to me on the eve of December 26, 1963, in a small community called Crown Point, New Mexico. It was about half an hour east of that community where I grew up, in another little town called Theroux, New Mexico, where I was raised by my parents, Fred and Rena, and along with my 3 other brothers and 4 sisters, 10 of us in the family. And no, we weren't the Partridge Family. We grew up in a divided culture of our own tradition and the Anglo culture. And at an early age, my father was involved with politics on the reservation. He was a community chapter president for a dozen years, and in our little community in Pruitt, in Navajo it's called Kintlika, which is White House. And we lived there knowing that my father would be away from home often, serving the people in our community, which was roughly populated close to 1,000 at that time. And when he wasn't working with the Navajo tribe, he was translating the script of the Bible in the Pentecostal church on weekend congregations. So we had to learn 2 different values, 2 different religious structures that was always side by side. A lot of discipline, a lot of respect, and a lot of knowledge that we had to learn. There was a lot of homework aside that, and going to school and so on. So growing up in a big family was lots of fun. Most of the times our parents would not be home, so we had a chance to do lots of things on our own growing up. My older sister, God bless her, passed away a couple of years ago, and she used to be, in a way, our mother. And she brought us up, and we used to go hiking in the canyons, and what we call my backyard, about 20 miles of Anasazi sites, and a lot of things to do in our area. And it is through a lot of stories, both from different cultures, that I have come to know that my work was meant to be, in a way. My Navajo name is, in Navajo, Natayatli, which means one who delivers the message. It's a name that was bestowed upon me, that was given to me 3 generations ago from my great-grandfather. It's a name that carries clanship, kinship, respect for a culture, the long walk that was associated with the Navajo people, the history of our people, the religion and the spiritual process of from being a child and growing into old age. It's a name that is something that I carry with me every time I do a piece of artwork or say hello to other Navajo people. And it's a name that is an homage. It's a family name. It's a family portrait, and every one of the pieces that I do up to this time is in honor of my great grandfather's name, one who delivers the message. the name is a traditional name again, and it relates back to the Navajo people. In our mythology, we travel through 4 different worlds in our mythology: the black world, the blue world, the yellow world, and the white world. And in this world, this is what we call the 5th world. And through these different worlds, there was associations of different colors, association of different plants, association of different insects, association of different animals, and so forth and so on. It is in this day and age that in the 5th world that we have well over 65 clans of Navajo people. So when we greet each other, we say, I'll say it in Navajo and then try to translate it in English. Which roughly translate, I am a Kia'ani clan, I am a towering people clan. I take the first half of my mother's clan, and then I take the second, or first part of my father's clan, which is my second clan, which is the Kobaj, the 2 people who came to the water clan. And then my maternal grandparents are the Ashihin clan, which is the salt clan. And my paternal grandparents are Tutney Sunny clan, which is the Tango people clan. In Navajo, we can distinguish. If we say Shemasan, that means our grandmother, Shiche, grandfather, and then we can also say in a paternal definition, Shanala, which means the paternal side. So we can distinctly separate our clans through that. It's very complex. And the reason why I want to point that out is when I see another Navajo person who might be here, might be at the airport, might be at a convenience store where I live or something, if I've never seen them, I'll say hello and who are you and what's your clan? And say, for instance, might be an older lady, and she might say that, she might tell me her clan. I might notice that she is like a granddaughter to the Towering People clan. And in that way, I would say that you are my granddaughter and I'm her grandfather. So that's how we, as a family, know each other, and through our clan among the Navajo people, a little over 200,000 of us, we're in some way related through our clanship, through our creation story, through our heritage, and through our culture. And where the Navajo people originated is called the Nebuchadnezzar, which is in the San Juan Basin, the northwestern part of New Mexico. There's this one canyon, the Largo Canyon, where there's descriptions of art and of creation of songs in petroglyph along the canyon walls. There's archaeological sites of hogans and of Pueblo structures in that area, and that's where the Navajo people emerged as through historical events. It is there through the 1600s, 1700s, right up to this day that we populated from roughly from 12,000 of 1868 to a little over 200,000 today. I'm very proud to say that a lot of my work has traditional ties, has traditional symbols, both of my culture and of my clan and of my family. Every piece that I do, for instance, the ceramic pieces, they're all one of a kind. They have personal stories to them. Some can be humorous in a way, but I use a lot of beautiful things about my symbol. I use a lot of passages about the previous worlds that we passed in, the colors that are related to my directions and my spiritual people. And it is through those things that inspires me to think about everything I do about my artwork, whether it's 2 or 3-dimensional work, to think about it in Navajo first. It's an abstract thought. And when I do a ceramic mask, people often wonder, if it's ceramic or leather. That's always a misconception. It's ceramic, of course, but it's a clay piece, and when I roll out the clay, it's like a large tortilla shape. And when I start making the mask, there's no drawing in advance. There's no composition that I'm working that's already sketched out. It's something that's, like a program, and it's programmed in my mind, and I just follow that intuition about what's going to take place with that. And in that way, I kind of see myself as like being a creator. I put the clay down and I think about it as Mother Earth, and I start putting in the symbols, and I don't think about the colors. I don't think about where the feathers are going to go. I just think about the symbols and the image that's going to appear to me. So that's totally done in traditional thought, and what I call ritual knowledge. Ritual knowledge is as close as I can define it in English, is that the Creator in the previous worlds gave us the souled wind and the small wind. The souled wind is the wind that we breathe, the air that we breathe, that the Creator gives to us the day we're born, and He takes it away from us the day we die. The small wind is the wind that is an individual wind. It's given to us as a gift, and it's to prosper among other people and to contribute to society, which is called the small wind. When we say wind in Navajo as a prayer or in songs, we call it nishchit, which is very sacred. It's a harmonious and a beautiful thing. If we say a song or do a prayer, we usually say Hojonjin Nashada, like in beauty we walk, nishchit and lin nishchit, which means the holy wind, the Creator's wind. We thank You for the days that we breathe on Mother Earth and so on. So a lot of the traditional spiritual beliefs is part of my work. It's part of it here and there. Then I get to a portrait of my family in there. So it's like everything that I do is a family portrait of who I am and where I come from. I just want to talk very briefly about this mask as far as the description goes. This one is titled White-Shelled Grandson. And there's some little swirls around here. There's three swirls. And this one I call the Trail of Beauty, the Path of the People. And then there's the small wind and the souled wind. And then usually, if this is the mouth here, the eyes are here, the mouth is here, usually I put a hole through it to go clear through the backside to let the people know that this mask is just as alive as our sacred Yeviche masks are as well. The eyes here represent the cloud formations from like east to west or north to south. It's a duality thing. And this represents the earth here, and the shell represents symbols of the people that are walking along the mountainside or along Mother Earth. When I have feathers that come out straight out like these little red ones here, they represent people. They represent the journey of people. And the feathers along the side, they might be turkey, they might be pheasant, they might be macaw, they might be chicken, grouse feathers. These are symbolic of the eagle, that is the Creator's messenger. They're always flying high and above. And the grass pretty much represents Mother Earth as a whole. So everything that I do with my mask have a traditional family story, a traditional story, or a cultural story to them. And no two are alike. They take on a personal direction of transitional story from tradition to non-tradition, from Navajo art to American Indian art, from American Indian art to fine art. It's a highly decorative art. They have no ceremonial or traditional significance whatsoever. I've never depicted an actual Yeviche mask, but there's some hints of some other masks that I've done that have a slight variation. Maybe one of the eyes might have a triangle eye. If you guys are familiar with the Yeviche mask, they have a little triangle shape. Sometimes I might put a triangle eye in there, or sometimes I might use the actual native skin, a tan hide, to put on the mask to make sure that is in respect to the Yeviche mask. And then I also do some of the village canvases over here. There's some behind Lois and Jerry, and then there's a few more here. Most often I get a question, if you're Navajo, why do you do Pueblo villages? And I want to get this story out because it's really important. Where we grew up, like I said, in our backyard we had a lot of Anasazi sites, and we used to go rumble around them. Those were our hiking journeys. I used to hang out with my cousin brothers, and my older brother and his other cousin used to hang out. So there was like 3 groups and my older sister. So we would never play together. We all had separate groups. You know, they either told us you're too young and short, or you get tired, you get lost, or whatever. So as we grew older, we started going to these sites and looking at pottery, and we dig up pottery and look at the designs and cover them back up. And as kids, we were very, very interested in what was around us. It was something to see. We'd see these mounds full of pottery shards, or other times, we'd leave it alone and when it rains, you know, for a couple of years, we go back, and when the wind blows, that's when the arrowheads begin to appear. You can see them shimmering, and you can just pick arrowheads all you want in a way. And there were some other sites that were tucked in between canyon walls, and we used to go down there and look for beads and lots of things like this. And where I lived is very high altitude, about 7,000 altitude. And I was very fortunate to be raised near Mount Taylor, our southern sacred mountain. And it's about 20 miles west of there that I lived. And where I lived, and in between Mount Taylor, there's a mountain range called the Zuni Mountain Range. And in Navajo, it's called Nutsindejia, which means dark eyebrow. So when I do my canvases, I never thought about it at the time, but when I look at them now, it's an homage to the Anasazi villages that were there several hundred years ago. And I just kind of look at the villages as something that was there, that will be there forever. As long as there's a pottery shard there, as long as there's a little piece of rock that has a foundation to the site, that gives me the pleasure and contribution that when I do a piece of canvas that has Pueblo villages, it's an homage to the Anasazi people. And a lot of times I'll put some mountainscapes in there, which represents some of the mountains in that area. And I used to do a lot of winter canvases, and that just represented purity and in a contemplative mode. So everything I do that up to now is closely tied to my culture. And I have a little boy who's 6 years old, and he's taught me that you never, once you become a child and grow up and you become a father, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to become a grandfather. It means you're starting all over again. By the time he was born, I was born again. I had to learn a lot of things from him, and I became a student to him. And that's how it is. And you know, it comes back to that clan or kinship. When I meet when there's a newborn that just arrived a few minutes ago, I might be related to that little person, and that person might be my grandfather or my aunt or my niece, and that little baby hasn't even spoken a word yet. I'm eager to strike a conversation with that little baby. So it goes back into a lot of these traditional and cultural relationship about my work, and I'm happy to be here, and I wish my family was here to be able to enjoy the experience of the hospitality of St. Charles, and to know that this is a very wonderful gallery. And again, I'm very thankful for Jerry and Lois being here today too. Thank you.
If there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Would you explain a little bit about this painting?
This painting here I titled, I'll be right back.
Think fast, think fast.
Fetishes of the, yes, it's titled Fetishes of the Water People. When we used to go around the sites, we picked up a lot of toys, Navajo toys. They'd be just like stick figurines, and it just have a head and just have a long body. It was made of oak, and some of them were as small as 4 inches, and some of them were 6 to 8 inches. And I hope there's no anthropologists out here, because I'll tell you I'm lying. And we used to look at these toys and look at them, and we used to take, one time we took one home, and my mom and dad really got mad at us, and they told us to put it back, and we buried it back. So a lot of things we discovered we never put back. But this is some of the things that I was thinking about those little stick figurines. And being born 2 people by the water clan and being related somehow through the Yeviche mass, that I want to put them together, and we have a lot of fetishes that are tied together in medicine bundles. And it was just like a family here. It showed the family and some of the medicine, some of the herbs that we use, and it shows like the yarn. And the white shell represents the moisture. There's some shell here. And this represents the rainbow, which, you know, the whole thing becomes a whole. Thank you.
Jerry, what did you all start on your enduring traditions? When did you start on it? What year?
Well,
About 2 years ago.
about 2 years ago. Yeah, it was almost a 2-year project.
And that was fast for us.
Yeah. But that's about right. And we actually even started on it before we had a contract with the publisher. We felt strong enough about what we were doing that we felt we could get that worked out. And, so it's about a 2-year effort.
2 years.
I was wondering, does the fifth world have a color?
All 4 colors. Like our eastern color is white, our southern color is blue, our western color is yellow, and our northern color is black.
Any other question?
What paint do you use to, it doesn't look like a glaze, to cover your ceramic mask?
It's acrylic paint. It's it's a low fire sculpture body plate, and then it's airbrushed and painted after the fire.
We want to thank, too, Gene Waddell for being here. Gene's been a right hand. Anytime that Gene is here, we have a project, we've got to, we need some specific art. I call Gene, and he'll get it.
You don't know how many times he's come bringing stuff over at night or weekends or whatever, and
So
then
just keep it as
picks
long
it
as
up
you need it to
again, and,
photograph.
you know,
Right.
just,
It's,
he
people-
almost says it's yours, not quite. He always wants it back.
We've got some great stuff here, too.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the colors they used, were they that bright, years ago? They used those bright colors like hundreds of years ago, or is it just something that?
Oh no, that's just the paint and so on.
Yeah,
Just contemporary
it's
thing.
color now.
I think that's, again, the point that I tried to make earlier, too, is what he's done is brought this traditional art to transcend into contemporary art. Thus, we have these bright colors and, much, much brighter than we might anticipate, but just gorgeous, gorgeous blend.
And a lot of artists are doing that, rugs naturally, because they have more colors to work with. So they're coming up with these new and exciting designs and colors in rugs. They're unbelievable. They keep evolving too.
Are you all going to intertravel and going like you did at Indian Market as well, or are you concentrating primarily on the award pieces at Indian Market?
You mean in selecting art?
Yeah, and selecting.
We
in
hit
particular.
almost all of them. We hit Gallup, we hit,
Okay.
several in Arizona, wherever.
And we don't, while we do concentrate to some degree on the award winners, we also don't always agree with the judges.
I can understand that.
So when we see what we, in our humble opinion, is a great piece of art and is fitting within the parameters of our project, we photograph.
Oh,
We
good.
may not be experts, but it's our book.
So you'll see in the captions in Enduring Traditions, you'll see a lot of them. We always try to include the honors if it receives honors, but you see a lot of them that didn't receive honors that could just as well have.
And we get a lot of places too, besides those places. Like I said, Gene will bring things that he thinks are worthy of being there, and other
Yeah.
galleries will. Other artists will bring things, or they will tell us about another artist. They will say, well, do you know so-and-so, because he's got some great things. So we will contact him.
How in the world did you narrow it down to what you have in your book?
Well, it's
Blood,
What
sweat, and tears.
What criteria did you
Well,
use?
that's what I tried to say. There isn't a set
That's
criteria.
what-
As we get it together and we start getting a rough idea, then Lois has started having some ideas of how she's going to approach the book. And it's just very difficult. And we meet with the publisher. Our first meeting with the publisher was brutal. We had all this photography out there, and we had to make decisions on how much jewelry, how many rugs. And we cut a bunch out, and then after they left, we slipped a bunch back in. Well, we can't eliminate this one. And the publisher was going to downsize Enduring Traditions from Beyond Tradition. And our contract really showed for a book with, I think,
120 photos.
120 photos, and there are 200 in there. We had to work like the dickens to